Most businesses don't fail because of a lack of effort. They fail because their foundation is rotten. If you don't have these 5 things in place, it doesn't matter if you're an AI, you're an e-com, you're coaching, construction, even a daycare center, it doesn't matter. You'll collapse before you scale. So let's jump into these 5 things and make sure that all of these are set up so you can actually scale and have success in your business. All right, starting off with number 1, a clear value proposition, a core offer. For simple terms, a lot of people go into the business and they just draw a blank, right? We need to make sure that, what pain do you serve? And if you go and ask anyone who starts a business, what are you in business for? They're going to say money, which is fine. Like, we all go into business to make money, 100% with you. But when you go to a customer and you say, what are you doing for the customer? They just say, I don't know. I look after kids if I'm a childcare center. And it's not really solving a pain point, and people forget, they got to have a core offer. I run an AI automation agency. My core offer is growth systems, right? I speed up your efficiency and I increase your revenue. That's my 2 things that I solve, and I solve it for $10 million SMBs, small, medium businesses. So people need to make sure that you have a pain point. You need to solve something. Why should they choose you over any alternative, right? There's like a million people. I'm not going to draw a million people, but let's say that looks like they're holding together. You say it's like all of these. Why are we picking this man right here? Is he like, what's the offer, right? And you need to be able to explain it in a single sentence without jargon. Not, especially in software, you can't just go on this complicated rant. Like, I offer back-end, cloud, server, systems. Obviously, I'm not IT, man. I do automations, not IT. These cloud servers that respond in 1 millisecond for enterprise businesses. Like, you got to be able to explain it, right? A great test for your offer, if you think you have your offer and you've got it sorted, go to the oldest person and tell them and see if they can repeat it back to you. Just say, hey, I want to just say this offer that I have for my business. Can you repeat it back to me? I'm only going to say it once. Say it to them and see if they repeat it back. 90% of the time they will not be able to. Not because, they can't hear it, but it's a very good indication. If you say it once to a client, they should be able to recite it back to you. Oh yeah, Corey does, growth systems for $10 million plus SMBs, right? Not Corey does cloud systems, AI, I don't know, all this bullshit. So it needs to be clear. It needs to be simple. It needs to be clear. Find an old person of some sort and see if they can repeat it after once. This will be your core offer. And a lot of people, without this, they just go and do social media. They post in the void. There's no, direction. You just look scattered, right? Second one is consistent client acquisition. So your growth engine. Do you have one repeatable system that reliably brings in leads, right? Mine personally is Upwork, is my main reliability. That's a hard word. I don't know, maybe because it's Monday. I've made over 50 grand in the last 6 months from Upwork, right? I don't have cold emails, although I'm going to start building it. I don't have cold emails. I have LinkedIn. I go on there. I build the growth systems for the people looking because it's a warm funnel. It's a warm lead. So what's the one system that reliably that word brings in leads, right? This is what you need to ask yourself. Cold email, inbound content, paid ads, referrals. It really does not matter, right? You could run a daycare. I'm going to keep pounding on daycare centers. Maybe we shouldn't. Let's say you could run a brick laying company, right? Maybe a brickie, a carpenter, a builder. It doesn't matter if you do cold emails. Cold emails work. When you do a cold email, you're going to try to find partnerships, right? Maybe you're not going to email everyone and be like, hey, you want to build a house? But you can email to a lot of businesses, like a B2B business. You can do inbound content. You can show some cool edits with you like building a house, right? Some like time lapse, a little bit of video editing, some, before and after. You can do a lot of the stuff with that. Paid ads still work as well. Right? We can do on LinkedIn, and you could target certain business professionals, companies, and run LinkedIn ads. Referrals work. My point is, it doesn't matter what you do. Every business, every single method works if it gets tweaked correctly to what the business is. The problem is founders juggle 7 tactics, and the winners double down on one system that works. I found very early on that Upwork worked, right? I had about 14 applications I've worked out. And this leads to 1 client on average. 14 applications takes me 5 minutes each, right? So, you're looking at maybe an hour of lead gen plus maybe $2-3. We'll go $3 per application. So we're looking at $52, right? So 1 hour plus $52 equals a project $1 to $3K. I realized that very early, and I was like, holy shit, those metrics are wild, right? Why would I do that? I ran cold emails. I ran 9K of cold emails. This is at the beginning. I got 2 sales calls, right? None of them closed. This 9K ran for 3 months, and it was about $300 per month. So I spent $900 there. Equals $0. So it was a $900 input. So founders often, they will identify this, and they'll say, okay, we're going to do this one, and I got to do this one, and I got to do some sort of content and paid ads, and they run all of these. But really, the lever that you should be pulling is this one, right? Like, we should be pulling the one that makes the most money. Why are we spending all this shit time in all this other stuff? So it doesn't need to be hard. Just find what makes the most impact. If you haven't found it yet, test it, work out, which one's got the highest impact, and then tweak it a little, do a little bit of A/B split testing, and then work out, what we're going to double down on. The third method, delivery infrastructure, fulfillment. As an automation expert, fulfillment is the pain word. I'm not even going to go on about the automation space in here and the amount of times I've seen clients that it all crumbles at fulfillment, right? You should be able to onboard a client within 24 hours without touching a spreadsheet. If you can do this via automation, you can do it via staff. It's really not that hard. They sign a contract, right? What do we need to do after the contract? Okay, they need to do this, this, this. What do we need in order to get the project ready? Okay, we need this, this, this. Okay, package it up, put it into the onboarding, right? Now, there's going to be some delays. There's going to be some delays in this. If we're doing, if you're like a builder or a carpenter or like these really, really high values, there's obviously going to be some sort of delays, right? But we want to make sure, can we still get this client in our system within 24 hours? Can we at least notify them or give them something? Now, let's turn off Slack so we're not getting notifications. Next one, are deliverables tracked in a system, not in our head? And you talk to a lot of people and we'll say, okay, is this person on target? Yes. Okay, where's the spreadsheet for this? And up here, buddy. Right? It needs to be written down. Everyone needs to see it. It needs visibility. When we do ours, we have a ClickUp board, right? And we have subtasks for each one, and we have an assignee for each one, whatever it is. This is in a list form, and then we can use Kanban and different types of boards and project management software to actually track it to make sure we're on target. But the deliverables are in there, and then we have links, docs, Google Docs for each of these subtasks, whether they're SOPs, whether they're handovers, whether they're something, right? If this is A person and this is B person, this person needs to do a handover, right? We either do a document, we do a Loom, we do an email, something needs to do handover into problem B. And this ensures that the fulfillment actually occurs. Done this, yes, handover, video, done. Now, a huge common issue that we have is when we're doing the delivery and fulfillment, 1 is the worst number in business. It truly is. The reason being is if someone becomes sick, you are screwed, royally screwed. We need to ensure that we have SOPs in place. Maybe we can only afford 1 person at the time, which is completely fine. But we need to put the SOPs in place. We need to put the templates there. So the moment that person goes down, instantly we can bring someone else in. SOPs, this is how you do the job. Get on and let me know if you have any issues. And we have that backup system, right? And in reality, clients don't leave because of results. They leave because of poor communication and sloppy delivery. And I would even argue that poor communication is about 80% of the cause of sloppy delivery. There needs to be constant communication. There needs to be, do you have SOPs? So, for example, a little story of mine is when I first started the automation agency, I was like, I'm going to just update everyone on a Sunday and give them an update on everything. Implemented it. Then I noticed people were still asking questions. They were like, when's my project? What's the update? What's happening? And I went, okay, so maybe they're just not looking at it on the weekend. Let me do it on a Friday. I did it on Fridays. Next week, hey, what's an update with this project? This time it came in on a Thursday. I was like, that's interesting. That's weird. And it wasn't until I implemented it on Tuesday and Thursday or Friday, depending on how big the project is and how much we get done. It wasn't until I actually implemented 2 touch points during the week that all stopped. And then when we finalized some clients and projects, they were like, oh, that was wonderful, great service, really communicative. And we only got that by implementing the communication twice a week. And it sounds a little excessive for certain industries, right? Obviously, if you're building a house, you're not going to be like, hey, I laid 400 bricks today. It's on track. We're not going to do that. It's just ensuring that you have the time between, what you think is an acceptable range for communication and updates, or like the next stage of project happening may not be the client's expectation of it. So we need to just sort of get out of that framework and go into what the clients expect. Number 4, I believe we're at 4, is financial controls, right? Businesses do not go broke from bad ideas. They go broke from not watching the numbers. Now, it may be illogical to a few people, but a good example is if I have a business idea, I can close to test it for less than $1,000 very easily, right? You have social media, you can put on social media, you can ask groups, you can cold call businesses and do like a mini focus session, about 50 phone calls will actually give you the right statistics and, the validation of your idea that it will actually work. So they don't go broke from the ideas. It's not that it's bad, like there could be a bad idea, but that doesn't make you go broke. If you're a company already established, if I'm doing automation and I decide to do teaching of the automation, I won't go broke because the automation stuff's working. Like this is my straight path, right? I would go broke if I start reallocating all my resources from the automation, and then this is the education. So let's do ed and automation. If I start allocating resources, staffing, funding to here, right, and this has a $0 return and this has a 20K return per month, first is illogical, but if I started moving this and this went to like, I put 10K here with a $0 return, now all of a sudden I'm getting 10K here. This is a going broke from not watching the numbers, right? This can be tested for $0. This can be done through social media. It can be done a variety of ways. So you need to know stuff like your burn rates. If you're like an online agency, you can use churn if you're doing like education churn rate, but ideally you want to know, like for retainers, for example, my monthly recurring revenue, maybe the lifetime value of these customers are 2 months, right? So my burn rate is one client every 2 months, one retainer every 2 months. I need to know my margins. What's my profit margin? How much am I spending on staff, software? And huge thing that people don't account for within this margin is your own salary. I may make, oh great, I get $50 an hour of profit from this job, but then I got to pay myself. Okay, I pay myself, and now I got to pay tax, and then you pay tax on that. So then really, that $50 might actually be $20, $30 after tax. If you live in Australia, it's probably zero because tax is so damn high here. And do you have cash runway right now? People will jump into these big ideas and they'll start pumping the resources over like this to the next place, but they don't have the runway to actually sustain it, right? Like how much, if I did this method, how long do I have on this timeline until I run out of cash? Is it going to be month 4 here or month 3, right? And people just don't account for this. This is an example of not watching numbers. Are you reinvesting proper into growth, right? Money into nice to haves. They're my good example is if you start purchasing like fleet vehicles to replace or business expenses, I'm reducing my tax, but does it actually equal a positive outcome, right? Like, am I reducing my tax by $1,000, but I'm spending $10,000? Those sort of metrics, you need to make sure that the sort of nice to haves, if they are, that it's reinvested properly and that you're investing into growth. Make sure you're investing into marketing, something that brings a return, right? A 1-to-1. I'm going to use this 1-to-2 and above is ideally what we want. And then do separate vanity metrics, likes, follows from real numbers. So profit, retention, customer acquisition. Are you being like, oh, I'm making so much progress because I got 1,000 likes on this post, right? And then in reality, maybe you've made $0. A good example of this is when I was starting into the automation space. There was this, I can't remember who it was. There was this creator for the automation. This is when make.com first came out, and he had 1,000 followers, right? And he did a video and he said it was life changing. Even though it's 1,000 followers, he never has to do lead gen ever again. This is his main source of money that comes in. And I really thought about it and I was like, that's really interesting. Like only 1,000 people, and each of his videos had 20 likes max for each of these. So you look at it from an outside and you're like, this doesn't make sense, right? So this 1,000 person was making anywhere to 5 to 10K a month. Notice people. And then you look at some other creators, they've got 100,000 followers and they're making 1K per month. This is vanity metrics, right? The impact and the real numbers that we have down here is this. It's revenue. It's what we need, right? So you can see counter. It is always counter. This is the right one, but realistically, this is the right one. So ideally, this should be our target, right? These are an example of vanity metrics. And the last one is founder leverage. You are the bottleneck. Are you still doing $10 an hour tasks? You should be driving strategy. Are you doing these mundane? Are you spending 3 hours away from your sales calls to do CRM data input? It's just not logical, right? Do you hire, delegate, and build systems, or are you just working harder? Are you like, oh, I have so much work to do tomorrow, I'm going to work an extra 3 hours tomorrow, right? It just doesn't make sense. So every 90 days, you should ask, what can I delete, delegate, or automate? And an example of this with my agency is when I've done some videos on this, so I won't go super deep into it, but when I started building, I realized that it was taking me about 30 hours to do a project, right? And I was getting about 1,500 for these projects. This 30 hours was very inflated. Like, this job should have been 10 hours max, right? But because I was sort of new to the industry and I was still trying to learn and, get my head around a lot of this stuff, these were fixed prices. Ideally, it should have been a fixed price of 1,500 for 10 hours. So when I sort of did this, I went, well, this doesn't really make sense. Over here, we've got 14 applications, right? This is 1 hour. Should get around $1,000 of, sales calls if I did it. Ideally, it's probably a delay of about 1 per week. So I sort of looked at this number and I went, well, if I hire someone at $10 an hour, let's say, a builder to do this, I save 20 hours realistically. This builder cost me, $100, right? This was a very simple task for my first job. So this was like $100-ish, right? And then I saved 20 hours. In those 20 hours, with applications and everything, not just the video, I should be acquire 2 clients at least. So all of a sudden, my profit was $1,400. So I lost $100 plus I got 2 clients, which is about $2,000. So this was $3,400. And this was the turning point in my own story where I was like, I want to do an agency. Like, I'm not cut out to build, right? This 30 hours is crap. I shouldn't take that long. Like, I'm just not experienced enough in this. I want to be in the automation space because it's awesome. We get to streamline businesses. We get to increase revenue, huge amounts. But I just don't want to help do the building, right? And this is why I sort of go down that agency route. Realistically, now it's more like a 30-ish to 60 an hour, depending on the builds. But there's still this profit, and this still leads to, in this case, I was the bottleneck. I had bad customer service. I was spending so long on jobs. I was overwhelmed. Really, if I wanted to hit this 20K a month mark, and this was taking me 30 hours, and it took me a week, right? If I want to hit 20K a month, I need to be doing 5K per week. This 30 hours means, we're doing 3 of these? So this is 90 hours just here. So I'd have to take 3 clients just to get to 5K per week. So this is sort of the whole bottleneck thing. This is that, are you doing maybe not $10 an hour tasks, but it's like, I should be driving strategy. I should be leaning on doing the clients, doing the sales, bringing the stuff in to increase this revenue. And then every 90 days, obviously, what can we delete, delegate, or automate? You obviously put it in a square like this. And we sort of go high priority, delegate, delete. And if you're a business that can't function with value, you don't own a business, you own a job. Many people leave their businesses, full-time businesses, to actually start this, only to be locked into this 90 hours earning the exact same wage, 3 times the amount of work. So we need to make sure that we run the business can run without us. So if you're under 10K a month and you're stuck, it's because one of these 5 is broken. And if you go back and you reflect on all of this, I guarantee you one of these is broken. So to fix them in order, you need to nail your value proposition. Once you've done that, okay, let's go to the next one. One reliable acquisition channel. If you don't have it, look at the stats, work out what's working, really go into that. You then need to create the delivery systems. Is it streamlined from start to finish? Are we smooth? Doesn't matter what business you are, it should be a smooth delivery. You need to get control of your finances. Every week you should be tracking financial metrics. You should be looking at your bank account every day to know, okay, well, this amount's come out, this is where it's going. I have this much runway. You need to start strategically planning. And then you need to start removing yourself as the bottleneck. Identify what these are in your own business, because there is one, and maybe you don't hire someone here, but maybe you automate. If this was, HR company, and maybe we spend 10 hours hiring someone or trying to qualify, we go to meetings for these jobs to hire them, and maybe they're a waste of time, like we're not qualifying them. So maybe we implement an automation to qualify them and send all this information, fill out this spreadsheet and do an onboarding process. And hell, you could even do AI to sit the interview for you, do a phone interview. And this could eliminate this whole thing. So remove yourself as a bottleneck. There's so many ways to do it. And the irony is everyone chases these advanced hacks, but it's the boring foundations that separate the businesses that die in 1 year and those that pass 7K. It's really not that hard. The main 5 things is that they have all of this down packed, and this is really what allows them to scale to financial freedom. So I hope that it helps anyone that needed clarification on this topic, or just was stuck under the 10K per month mark. I've implemented I would say about 90% of these, not to 100% success, but even 1% better every day, and we've scaled to 30K months quite easily just from these very foundational fixes. So if you like seeing this content, let me know. Any questions, put them in the comments. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a fabulous day.